Hi everyone and welcome to this week's episode of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. Thanks again for joining myself, Richie and Tom in discussing all the week's Stadia topics. On this week's show we talk about all the news from this week's Made by Google event, a very important chat about calendar updates, and also a conversation around some of our gaming shaming lists and much more. So without further delay, on to the show.
Welcome to episode 4 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast, and welcome back to all of our Texans, Floridians, and fans from Georgia. We decided to change things up a little bit this week. You might be able to guess, and we're actually doing a live recording with the three of us, all together in one room, surprisingly enough. Absolute shocker right there. What better timing to record this episode than following Chris enjoying a late night out with his good friend Captain Morgan, myself suffering from a depressing week of man flu, and Richie, well, how have you been, Richie?
I'm hungover.
So, without further ado, let's get into the show this week, gents. We are going to jump straight in with asking fun about whereabouts in the world are we going? Which state are we going to this week, Chris?
Oh, I'm in such a state this week, Tom. It really doesn't bode well. I am here. I've decided to hand over the reins of hosting to Tom this week purely because my brain will not function.
Prepare for a car crash, gents.
Yeah, I actually saved this just for the audio people.
Fantastic.
They're going to love that.
They're going to love that just to kickstart the day. I'll let you be the judge of what I'm drinking. Am I back on it? Who knows? But in terms of what state we're going to, after Georgia last week, we had someone actually write in from Atlanta, Georgia. It does exist. There's people there.
What are the odds of that?
With all of their lovely soil. So this week, we're going to Colorado.
Colorado.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Home of South Park.
Excellent.
Whether it be fictional or not, that's where they live.
What can you tell us about Colorado?
So again, I wanted to give you some facts. I've been doing some digging on Colorado, and by digging I mean a quick Google search of quick interesting facts about Colorado.
Educate individuals here.
Yeah, you can all do it yourself. There's this amazing thing on the internet. But yeah, I found out that apparently it's the only state in America to ever turn down hosting the Olympics.
Wow.
Didn't want it.
The Winter Olympics.
Just didn't want it.
Didn't fancy it.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't know why. Too much money.
Too many people making mess.
A little bit too high with all that
a little bit.
Mary J.
Yeah, well actually I say too high, but that's because it's also the highest state above sea level.
Ooh,
about 1
a
mile.
double entendre.
Denver specifically, yeah. So not only are they high in regards to turning that down, but yeah. But on the flip side, I say flip side as well. That feeds into it. They did invent the cheeseburger apparently.
Flip side. I'm loving the puns
Flip
today.
side. That wasn't even intentional, that one. So yeah, on the flip side, they invented the cheeseburger. Or they patented it or copyrighted it or whatever you need to do to claim
a cheeseburger.
Putting cheese on meat.
And, they just claimed it and no one else went,
Sticking it in a bun, yeah.
I'm going to call this burger, it's a burger with cheese.
Yeah.
Burger.
I mean, Georgia has the soil. Florida has its oranges. Texas has its Lone Star State kind of thing going. Yeah. But cheeseburgers, man.
You can tell we're uneducated British people.
I would have a cheeseburger right now.
Yeah,
I would kill many
famous for the
Texans
cheeseburgers.
for a cheeseburger right now.
Colorado famous for cheeseburgers and hate and skiing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what state we've been to this week.
Fantastic.
And, my state will change over the course of this podcast.
I'm sure. Good link.
I'm sure.
So if you are from Colorado, let us know in the comments as well. Obviously, welcome to our people from the other states as well and from around the world. Thank you very much for tuning back in and joining us on this magical journey today. And what a magical journey it's going to be. Yeah. So quite a bit of news this week, gents. Quite a bit of news. Let's get into it. Let's jump straight into our wonderful, super sexy special Stadia story segment, aka, gents,
the news.
We will work on that timing. That timing is work in progress. Yeah. So the biggest news, which hopefully most people will be aware of now, but in case you did miss
I forgot about this.
Is this the Monster Motocross game?
Is it?
Oh, wow. Spoiled it.
Sorry, guys.
So, yeah, biggest news this week. A new release announcement. Monster Energy Supercross, the official video game 3. Are we excited?
Beyond excitement.
You know what? It looks like it could be a good game for those into motocross, but that's not me.
Or if your name is Kyle, perhaps.
Maybe if your name's Kyle. Or maybe for an addict.
Why
addicted
specifically
to a
Kyle?
monster.
Have I missed something there?
Is your name
Maybe.
Kyle? Are you listening to this right now? Are you excited, Kyle? Let us know in the comments.
Little bit of memery going on there. So there's this whole stereotype around the name Kyle with drinking Monster and being into motocross and things
I've
like
totally
that.
missed that.
Yeah, same.
Well, you're going to have to check that out. guys.
I'm going to have to have a look at.
Whoosh. Anyway, the most important news that we're actually trying to alluding to a little bit is we finally have a release date. So the official release date now has been announced. We are getting Stadia on Tuesday, the 19th of November. It's happening. It's happening. It's finally happening.
It's a nice
It's
birthday present for me.
a real thing.
It really is.
So I did have actually an interesting tidbit off the back of that.
Go on.
You may have noticed that the pre-orders start to be sent out in the order in which they were ordered.
Oh, right. Okay.
So did you not catch that?
I didn't. No.
I did.
The shippings are going to start in the order in which they went in. So those of you who pre-ordered from day one, you should expect them maybe on the 19th. Those who maybe were a bit too hesitant and held off a little bit on ordering it, it may be coming slightly later. They've not really clarified, but it says orders starting based on when the pre-orders went in. So I just wanted to find out, the three of us, I pretty much did it instantly, so I'm hoping I'll get my hands on this Founders Edition day one. Richie, I think I sent you a message and you weren't that far.
Yeah, I don't think I was long after you, but I would be, to be honest, quite pissed if it doesn't come day one because you pre-order something, you expect it on the day.
That's it. Like, obviously,
And I hope this is just a case of this is how they're processing the orders, but everything should be good to go.
You'd like to think they've got that on that global.
But it seems weird they would bring this up.
Because I did see that as a caveat, and I can see the panic in Tom's face where he's thinking, I might not have mine until a bit later.
So, gents, roughly, do you have any sort of idea about what sort of date you actually pre-ordered yours on? Because I'm looking at mine right now, and now the panic is setting.
Well,
in.
when did they announce it? I'm pretty sure I remember watching the announcement video of it, getting excited, because they did it in February at the Developers Conference.
That's correct,
GDC, I think it's called.
It was GDC.
They announced it then, and I think off the back of that, they announced the pre-orders were going to go live, and I think it must have been February, March time.
Okay.
So it was pretty quick on the draw.
All right.
Because I remember screenshotting my email about the Founders Pack, sent it straight over to Richie and said, are you getting in on this with me? Because I need friends to play with. And then, it was only many, many moons later we decided, should we do a podcast on this? Let's get together. Let's speak to Tom. Tom knows his stuff. Then Tom went, I've pre-ordered this. So
I pre-ordered it on
And this was perfect.
Sunday, the 8th of September.
Wow.
Okay, so you're getting it in 2021.
So I'll see you on the official release date in February then, shall I, gents? When actually
Tom
everybody
will
else
jump in.
says.
This could be just the hardware, though. Stadia doesn't actually need hardware. If you've got a PC or Pixel phone, I think Google Pixel, it's 2 Plus now.
Yeah,
They said they can use with Stadia, so you can still play day one.
True. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong once again, but again, will I have access to being able to access Stadia via the Chrome browser from day one?
Presumably,
Yeah, I don't
because
see any reason why not, because
we're all waiting for essentially an email that's going to say, congratulations, here's the link to create your username. Okay. And as mentioned, everything runs through the Chrome browser with a default controller of your choosing.
Yeah.
So hopefully those who were a bit hesitant to delay or just didn't even know about it,
hands up here,
hands up, should still be able to play just via alternative methods.
Okay.
But again, back to what Richie said, you'd like to think logistically they've got enough time to see these orders come through.
I would like to think an organisation like Google will have their shit sorted out.
The thing is, it's a limited release, so they've got a set number they know they need to ship out.
Yeah.
So I don't see why there would be any delays, and they've got literally best part of a year to get it sorted.
You would like to think that people
and
who are...
it's Google, they're massive.
Yeah.
They've got all the resources in the world.
So people who are pre-ordering the Founders Edition, the people who were in that batch of the Founders group, surely they're going to have numbers and they have supply and demand right
well,
there. So.
According to them, they've sold out now.
Yeah.
So they know the exact amount that they have sold
Yeah.
and have gone. So in realistic terms, it should just be a case of getting the deliveries put in. Yeah. But to their credit, I've ordered a few products from Google in the past, the Google Home Minis in particular, and I'm pretty sure mine arrived next working day without question. It showed up in like early afternoon and I only ordered it on the evening. So the turnaround time is quite on point, so I wouldn't worry too much, Tom.
I do think this is just a case of this is how they're just going to process them, but I expect everyone gets what they need on the day. But it seems weird. It seems like a bit of a misstep in even bringing it up if that's the case, because you just muddying the messaging.
Well, we'll wait with bated breath, but hopefully they're not trying to pull a Nintendo when the Wii came out, for example, and only have limited availability for it, just to sort of do that whole, like, hype of a new piece of tech release, just to try to get people interested.
I don't think they're doing that because with the Founders... Well, they are kind of with the Founders Edition, but there's a set number, that's it. If you haven't got the Founders Edition, it's gone. You can get, was it the Premium Edition?
Premium, yeah.
Which is basically the Founders Edition without a few lesser perks. I can't remember off the top of my head what they are, but...
Yeah, it's like Founders Lite.
Yeah. Do they get that on the 19th or that next year?
So I think, if I understand correctly, and again, this is mostly speculation from my part, I haven't done any research on the back of this, but my understanding is that those editions will be following on from the Founders again as availability is made for
You'd be slightly annoyed if you ordered the non-Founders pack and it arrived before people who've got a back.
Yeah.
Again, it won't happen that way.
No.
But I think it's all just speculation. They have to get that caveat in that just to make you aware that you're going to be receiving it in the order, which is only fair that you get them in the order in which you pre-ordered them. Keep saying order, Chris. But that's how it rolls. So I think to gloss aside from digging down that rabbit hole, but I just wanted to see the look on your face, Tom, when we said that you might not get... When we start sharing group photos of it's arrived, delivery, and you're sat there twiddling your thumbs going, I've took the day off work to...
You live and learn. Yeah. You live and learn. It's one of these things in life that, you know, if you ain't first, you're last.
But again, sold out, so is anyone else getting it prior? We don't know. But I think to gloss over it, it's generally, we have a date, we have a release date, it's coming. We knew it was in November, but to actually put that label on the calendar, it's nice to actually know that we are heading towards a point where we'll be able to play Stadia games, talk about our real experiences, as opposed to all just hypothesize.
It's something to finally look forward to.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with the release date because it's actually 2 days after my birthday. Hey. So it's a birthday present to myself.
And how old are you, Richie?
I'm going to be 21.
Yeah. 21.
The right
30. I'll be 30.
Hitting the big 3-0. Welcome to the...
Aren't I the youngest out of the three of us?
Quite possibly.
So you're taking the piss out
for me
for being
this
old.
is true.
We've embraced in it. So unlike similar to Tom, we've already pre-ordered our status as 30-year-old. You're just the last in line waiting on it. So welcome to the club when that comes around.
So as well as us getting the release date, there was quite a bit of information that was given alongside that as well. So we've got a fair bit to talk about with this week, gents. As Google also released a nice little everything you need to know video too alongside it. So we now finally have a little bit of information about how the system is going to work and how things need to essentially be set up in the beginning, how the controller is going to work. And we also got a preview or a confirmation of the official Stadia app and how the app is going to work too. So without further ado, let's get into that and let's talk about the app. What do we think of the way that the system is going to work now that we finally had it announced to us?
I think we all knew that there was an app coming. Correct.
Yeah,
we didn't just presume it was just going to be this thing built into the Chrome browser. They had to very much make it digital in 21st century, and I don't think any company product goes live without an app nowadays. It would seem daft not to have that counterpart to it, especially something that doesn't have a fixed console to build off of. The app looks, as I would expect, streamlined, doesn't look too cluttered. It's going to have, from the snippets we've seen in the video, if you want to check it out yourself, it's very much... There's your friends online, there's your account, there's the games that you're playing. It's not something that really needs to go into that much detail, but I think looking at it, it looks clean, it looks simple.
It fits the Google bill.
Yeah.
It
really
fits the status quo of the Google methodology, the ideology.
I anticipated there would be an app, but I also thought this could just be another addition to Google Home, because Google have apps there, but... I think segmenting it is probably the right move.
I can see that Stadia logo just in a little white square on your phone, and you jump into it, you log in with your Gmail account or wherever it may end up being tied to, and it's a case of there's my friends playing online. But I do think the way they're going to be able to utilise it is that whole, because it's ran from Google servers, I can see Tom playing a game and I'm going to be able to click your name and jump straight in via the phone eventually, or via a Chromecast as launch stands, just by the click of a button.
Interesting point on that there. It might be quite interesting for us to actually see how that works from a multiplayer perspective. Let's say you're playing an online game where you're playing on a server where 32 people can join a game.
Mm-hmm.
if there is a space within the game, do you join and does it automatically put you into that lobby and then you can play with your friends? What happens if you try to join and the server is full? I'm assuming you probably just get some sort of message there. But it would be nice just to click to join the game.
Yeah, I mean, we've all sat in lobbies waiting to join. I know we've done it, Richie, on Battlefront 2 specifically a lot this year, where we have a small group. It's a maxed out number of people in the server room, and we wait around, and then as soon as we leave to allow the next person to join,
it's usually Gary being
the extra person, the extra person gets added into the group, and all three people leave, and then you're in this continuous loop of you trying to get on the same page as each other, and it's a back and forth between loading screens and lobbies, and it's really painful. So hopefully, with what Phil Harrison discussed in previous weeks about Google server capacity, Battle Royale has the potential for being huge. So that 32 max lobby might no longer be a thing because it can just keep, because again, it's running from a centralized server.
Fortnite runs with 100 players, and so that's kind of 100 seems to be the gold standard because it's Fortnite. But there's no reason with Google Stadia that couldn't even be pushed to like 1,000.
And with the big change in what's happening with Fortnite at the moment, with the whole second season coming essentially, perhaps they're working on the back end as well to be able to work on supporting a system like Stadia as well with a larger capacity. Maybe they're thinking about those kind of things.
It makes total sense because 100's a nice round number, but again, it's limited by server capacity and stuff. But if it's running centralized from that server, there's practically no limit because Stadia is going to be designed to support upwards of thousands, millions of people all at once running from the same setup. So adding 3 or 4 more people into a full room,
I actually think
shouldn't be too far
probably
beyond.
more important for MMOs rather than Battle Royale, because Battle Royale, if you're all playing against each other, you kind of want to limit the number anyway, otherwise it just turns into absolute unmanageable chaos.
It's very interesting.
MMO, I remember when I used to play Warcraft, occasionally you'd go into a city like Stormwind or Ugramar and there'd just be thousands of people there, and back in the day you just internet slow.
It's very interesting you mentioned something like that though. So being a huge MMO player, I understand the way that the technology works is that even though you are connected to, you join a server, don't you? When you join an MMO, you typically pick a server of which there are multiples to manage the number of people. But you can only ever really play with those people unless more recent in MMO development they've had cross-server play and things like that. But even when you're on a server there, because of the hardware limitations from the people running the MMO, typically you're put into sort of a slice or a section of a server where you can only see maybe 40, 50 people at a time because it can't physically load all the models for all the other people around you. But again, looking at the way that Stadia works, when all of that is being run internally at Google, they'd have the power to be able to show thousands of people at a single time.
That's what I was getting at. You wouldn't have to segment the player base through servers. You could arguably just have, everyone's in there, which with MMOs, things like trade and duels and PvP, all that stuff, which is then gets segmented as well. It's all in the same place.
So we can hopefully expect something like bigger scale battles and things that are certainly obviously not going to see frame rate drops as well, which will be in my case, I think that's epic.
Yeah, I think that's something everyone who's played in MMOs had problems with, regardless how good your hardware is.
Yeah, we've always seen there was the big MMO boom, wasn't there? Really, in the mid 2000s or so, with the rise of World of Warcraft and so on. And in that sort of market, there really, we've seen absolute huge success stories. We've seen massive total flops as well from big developers as well. But perhaps this could see a resurgence of the MMO market once again. Battle Royale, it will obviously benefit as well. But obviously that's tailored to 2 specific markets in the gaming industry there. The other thing that we're talking about is, as you mentioned with games like Battlefront and so on too, and talking about those large-scale games where you have, in Battlefield, Battlefront, Call of Duty, things like that, where you can have 32, 64 people in a server and so on. Once again, we mentioned in a previous episode that the way that the network connectivity works internally at Google as well means that you're not having to connect to all of the other people, which obviously puts a big restriction on or it actually starts to use up your bandwidth at home and so on there. You're just connecting to Google, so that'll obviously give Google a huge advantage in that sort of multiplayer market as well.
Yeah, this is where the ironic twist of people who've kind of discredited Stadia as being, we're going to have latency issues, it's all about your bandwidth and this and that. On the flip side of that, everything's ran locally, so what limits the consoles due to internet connectivity, we're going to have the reverse because everything's ran centralized. So all these things like maximum number players, I think it's really going to benefit these kind of lived out worlds, like you said, World of Warcraft-esque games where you've got hundreds of thousands of people can all sit in one lobby without any latency or delay or stag or anything like that, because it's all run locally, which is fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. And I think once again with that sort of scope of game as well, it's interesting for us to see from the multiplayer perspective how that helps the genres evolve, or how it actually helps move that market forward, because we have seen a lot of developers who get very stale in what they're releasing in terms of, the likes of the Call of Duty games being rehashed and re-released and so on there. But perhaps now they have an opportunity to start looking at those franchises and start to look at how can we realistically now take this forward with this sort of architecture, this infrastructure that's being offered to us.
That's it. I think it's exciting. Must be exciting from the developers, because since PS1, it's just been iterating on the same basic concepts, just improving through the generations. This is something different. It's why I'm excited about Stadia. It's the first real change, probably arguably since the Wii, in trying to introduce motion controls into the gaming market, where actually developers can do something different.
Okay. And it's interesting you say that, following on from your point there of saying, the excitement for Stadia is obviously now building with the release date now given to us, and now we have a solid time. That's 5 p.m. UK, guys, by the way, for when the servers will officially go live. That's what we're looking at now. So
whether you'll have your delivery of the controller or not.
Yeah, that's true. And then there's also the race home from work, and we're going to be sitting in waiting for a delivery all day.
5's a good time. It's a random day. I'll give them that.
I found Tuesday's
a strange one.
I thought they would want it going into like a weekend or a holiday season or something like that, so you can really get...
Probably later in the week, I would have thought. Get it out maybe Thursday, Friday, ready for the weekend.
In line with new game release sort of timeline.
I'm guessing they've got a reason.
It's very peculiar. Again, we're the testers here, aren't we? That's the thing.
Yeah.
So using the app, using Stadia itself, we're very much the test bed for how is this all going to work, because for all we know, day one, it might not even turn on.
Unfortunately, though, following on from that hasn't all been positive news this week, has there, gents? The news about the Stadia controller. What do we think of that? So, for those of you at home listening to the podcast, Google have now told us via the video that the wireless play with the Stadia controller will only be available using the Chromecast Ultra. So how do we feel about that?
Yeah, so I clocked this on that tutorial video that dropped, and it was one of those little caveats in the small print right at the bottom saying it, and it was a bit ambiguous the way it was worded, and it was no even reading it several times over, it doesn't quite explain exactly what it means. But I noticed there was a few articles crept up shortly afterwards pointing out kind of what it was attached to and what it meant. And again, at the end of the day, it's not terrible. I was planning on playing it on my TV using the Chromecast. It's that if I was to play it on a laptop or on a Pixel, if you had one, it being wired in isn't the end of the world, because you're so close to those devices. Your television, I understand, you're sat on your couch, you're a good couple of meters back from the TV. If you are playing on your phone, it's got to be quite close for you to see the thing. So it being hardwired in it's not a deal breaker. I'd be really surprised if anyone suddenly switched off and went, "Oh, I'm out, cancel my pre-order," purely because you've got to plug it into your laptop to play. It's very similar for a lot of devices.
While I agree with you, I wouldn't be surprised by people doing that, to be honest, because if you remember to the Stadia release video, one of the big things was how cool would it be? You can literally just go down the line of different devices taking the controller, sync, no problems. Yeah. This is one of the big things they were pushing. To now, it feels like the backtracking on one of what I was thinking was probably going to be one of the core features that they were going to push.
I mean, they have said it's only at launch. They have said they're working to get it to run smoothly across all devices. So again, it's that we're in that bubble at the moment where between now and February, March, when they go full Stadia base launch, we're going to be the test bed for it. Very much have a little taster of these things and see how they land. So
I touched on this last week, where I think the Founders Edition is basically a soft launch.
Yeah.
So if it's ready to go for the main launch, I think that's fine.
It's more like a beta program in a way, isn't it? But it's just a paid-for beta, really. Yeah. Which, arguably some people could say, well, they're not too keen on that sort of idea.
It's the messaging that I think there's a bit muddy. I see the Founders Edition as a beta testing, but other people might not be seeing it that way because they're not messaging it that way.
And this is almost the problem I've had with the way the messaging has been, that they dropped it in the middle of a Made by Google event as opposed to a Stadia-specific announcement. So I presume we've all watched the event. I watched it as it was
the Stadia relevant
as it was going live, and it was a very mixed conference. Like I said last week, it was always going to be focused on the Pixel and their home products, and it very much was. But the way they kind of dabbled in and out of Stadia, it felt very weird. Like the messages were very much, oh, by the way, we're also doing this product called Stadia. They talked about how the controller was recyclable and loads of great, economically friendly, world, planet saving functions. But yeah, it was very much. Here's a bit about Stadia. Now we're going to jump over to the Pixel. Now we're going to jump back to the Stadia. It was really mixed, and I think I would have preferred just a segment for that.
I didn't mind them talking about Stadia here, especially things like the recyclable stuff. Like, fine being there, but I was expecting any big announcement should really be coming from Stadia, especially from a Stadia Connect, especially so close to launch. Keep the messaging clean, get it out as its own thing, and then maybe next year you could incorporate more into the Google thing, but I think it is a good idea that they're putting Stadia messaging in there because there's other people going, I'm interested in their Pixel 4. Oh, what's the Stadia thing? But I think it does need its own push.
I do think it's again like you gents feel as well, that I don't mind the fact that they're releasing more information because any information is better than none.
Yeah.
But it does feel like it was very much like slid in there. It was like, right, we have a 2-minute gap. Let's go for it. Let's just chuck this in here because people will want to hear something. But when you are releasing something that is arguably meant to be a game changer, it should very much be the focus of something. Like, have an event for the Pixel 4 release. Have an event for Stadia. Don't try to mishmash in between and talk about everything here and there. I get it, Google, you're new to the market. You might still be trying to get to grips with what the gaming industry wants or what fans of the gaming industry want as well. But at the moment, there's this very torn community right now, which is very much like severed right down the middle between people who have invested in this and have an invested interest in it, like ourselves, and then people who are trying to be invested, but then are suddenly feeling extremely let down and are very much being very vocal about the negativity that they feel towards the product.
Yeah. And that comes from starving people of information. Like we got weeks away from November, and that's all we knew for the launch. So people were clambering for a solid release date. And the reality is, in a mixed event, they announced, oh, here's your release date, but also we're not going to go, we don't know anything more about any games, any more updates. Is there going to be another Connect event before now on 19th of November? And this is it, where it kind of breeds that people start talking, gossip happens, people scrutinise the details, as we've done regarding that little caveat at the bottom of the message, because people want to know this stuff.
Yeah.
And you can't hold a press event out to the masses, streamed live on YouTube for anyone to tune in and watch, and be so brief about a lot of detail. So great, we got a date, but I feel like
it came from the wrong place.
Yeah.
I've said last week, I'm okay with the information being in this event. However, the big drops, the release date, that's a bombshell for a Connect. Either open or close the Connect.
Yeah, even if they give a date and said, but we'll tell you more about that in 2 weeks' time, and separate, they needed to dangle that carrot in front of you and say, there's more coming, don't worry. But at the moment, we got a date, and then it very much shifted gears to our Nest Home products, and it felt a bit... It was weird.
Yeah, and again, if you look at the way that the big players in the gaming market at the moment deal with this, looking at Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony, Sony with State of Play, Nintendo with their Directs and so on, they have this structure where they are able to deal with that sort of news release in a very formative sort of way, in which we know what we're going to get, and we know that this is going to be good information for us. Whereas with Google, it's very much like, right, we have an event. We don't really know what's going to be talked about there. But one thing that really concerns me still, which makes me really skeptical about it, I'm still not going to cancel my pre-order. I'm still sticking with it. I'm invested in this now. But the release titles, once again, are still really having me a little bit concerned here. I don't know. There's a couple of titles out there that still have me interested. But at the moment, I'm sort of weighing up the success of the product based on what is coming out with it. And at the moment, it doesn't feel game-changing in that sense.
There's nothing in that list that you can't get elsewhere. We were talking about this last week on the podcast or off, I can't remember. But we were talking about it last week. Since with the Doom being pushed back, it's like, what in that list? Because I went through the list, and I couldn't find anything that jumped out on day one that you could... A new release.
It's just games that I either missed or I'm going to replay.
Yeah.
There's nothing in there that really makes me feel like, excellent, finally I've got a reason to get this. I've got a reason that I'm going to actually start using Stadia for this particular purpose right there. Again, it's not one of these things that is sort of going to break it for me, because you have to give these things time, especially when it's a new product on the market. You can't just shoot it in the foot immediately and say like, right, okay, you're done with, that's it. But there's a lot of people out there who do feel like that, and a lot of people are cancelling pre-orders, and that there must be something going on at Google where they're looking at those sorts of comments and trying to figure out what's happening. But are they really taking notice? I don't know, because at the moment I sort of get the feeling that the people are speaking, but there's not been any sort of response in relation to that.
Well, with games, it's not just in Google's hands, and I think they need some. We talked about exclusives last week. They need something there to go. You can only play this here, and this is a cool thing that you need to be playing.
I think the point. Again, I think we don't want to get too bogged down in the negativity of it all, because obviously there's plenty of YouTube videos out there if you want to go search for them, as we discussed last week. But I think it's a good consensus that between the three of us, who are all founders booked in, ready to go, that we're crying out for this information, and yet, as you said, Richie, there's no channels for kind of mix, like a straight message that's continual information as we creep around to this release date. Is any console ever launched without an exclusive to go? Megadrive had Sonic on launch and such, and
I think there's
all the
always been
Nintendos.
something.
There's always that catalogue of new games, like you were saying, and these are just older games. So when it comes out on November 19th, several days after Jedi Fallen Order, for example, where are people's who are pure gamers? Where's their attention going to be?
That being said, there is a game that is coming out with Stadia that is going to be an exclusive, or there's a game that's in the works for it, but it's not a big AAA sort of title. It's for those of you who don't know, it's Guilt by Tequila Studios, which are the guys who made Deadlight, and it's one of those that, you know, it feels like, and this is no disrespect to Tequila, but they're not a AAA type. They're not a AAA developer. They might be pushing to hope, you know, obviously every studio out there is trying to get their slice off the market, but it's not one of these games that's going to be system making. It's not going to determine success of anything. So there are exclusives that exist or are in the works, but as we've said before, it takes time. It does take time.
There's Baldur's Gate as well, which in the past was a AAA. I don't see Baldur's Gate 3 being that system seller, to be honest.
I don't.
I think it's one of them people who've played the other Baldur's Gate games and really enjoy that D&D isometric style will be, yes, this is what I want. But that's a set of people, and I think that market is kind of set in stone a bit. I think you're not going to find much breaking out into that.
Well,
and we don't know if that's an exclusive either. It was announced alongside Stadia.
I don't believe it's going to be. It's probably going to be pushed out to multiple platforms, just knowing what the developers have done in the past, for example.
It would seem very odd suddenly going Stadia exclusive. Yeah. I can't see it happening.
Well, we'll watch this space and we'll see what happens. Mm-hmm. But we have, we're essentially in now the last few weeks now before release. So
we've got a date.
Exciting times.
Countdown's on.
Absolutely. So onwards and upwards to other things then. So when Stadia launches, what do we think is going to be the system in terms of us setting up? Are we going to be identified, first of all, as founders? When we create our accounts as founders, do we get anything as we've noted down, like a special logo or a special icon that tells people a badge?
We saw in the again some of the snippets of the video regarding the app functionality and stuff. It looks like there's going to be a tiny little emblem you get next to your name, which presumably is for founders. I'd imagine they're going to have some kind of avatar set up, and they did show, whether it's the end product or not, they showed kind of like a Netflix style flicking through your games catalogue in the video, jumping between the sequences of he's Destiny, he's the other games.
If we're assuming they're going to have these like things like avatars and logos and themes to overact whatever the app is going, it'll cost them basically nothing to give the founders. He's a special one, only for you.
And I think it's nice to respect the people who've invested in it, in a product that hasn't been launched.
It's a win-win.
Before.
It'll cost them basically nothing to design something.
It's
limited to founders, so we get something.
I love the idea of being able to be like, oh, this guy's a founder, like, just have a special little badge that says like, happy 30th birthday, Richie, that kind of thing there. So it's something that I hope they do put out in the system, whether you get not just with the founders badges, but perhaps down the line you get like anniversary badges for how long you've owned the system for, let's say, you know, a 1 year, a 2 year, a 3 year, a 5 year, that sort of thing.
I think tried that at one point.
It does. They're still running it at the moment, and I think it's just nice having little things like that just identify you as somebody who has a vested interest in a product and is using it. Yeah. And it's just a little thing they can do. As you said, it doesn't take too long to develop, where it just says, thank you. You know, thank you for believing in the product, and thank you for taking the time to work with it. So hopefully, hopefully we've got something like that.
Yeah, and I think with it all being a totally digital marketplace, benefits them hugely for making these tweaks, making these changes. And we don't quite know what the UI is going to look like fully, but I'm not imagining that it's going to stray too far from your very generic model of you've got your tile windows, which is going to be your games. You're going to click into them to get a bit more information to launch the game, for example. It has to be clean. It has to be very, very Google, as you mentioned earlier, Tom. It has to be that nice clean slate, jump through, don't want too much fuss. And to be fair, there's not much detail that's required with games other than a launch window.
It gives a bit of customization on the things. If you want to put don't do Nintendo. Let me put some folders in there so I can organise things.
And with it all being run through like an app, it's easy to update.
It should be. We're expecting, like, looking at the UI from the video as well, it looked quite streamlined. It looked very... Again, going back, we keep saying it, it's very Google. It fits their ideology in the way that the system is just clean, easy to use. So, first impressions of that, how do you feel?
I'm happy with it.
The thing is, Google know what they're doing with UIs. Look at Android, it's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Android has come a long way since the very first.
So they've learned a lot of information, and that knowledge can be applied to this very easily.
I mean, we all use things like YouTube on a daily basis, and just think how clean that interface is. Why would it be any different to just have a long list of games, scroll up, scroll down, zoom in when you need to open a game, and then swipe it away to close it? It can't be much far from that.
Fantastic. Yeah. So, segueing quite nicely then, we also had news, so slightly less Stadia, but still sticking with Google. We had a nice little preview, first of all, of the Pixel 4. So... I'll hand this over to Chris now, because he's our resident guy for this kind of thing.
Yeah, so the Pixel 4, I managed to get hands-on with it. Caught me off guard. I didn't expect to see it. I knew that it was going to be announced. As I mentioned last week, it was inevitably going to be their focal point for the Google Made by Google presentation that they hosted. As expected, you're going to be able to play Stadia on it. Exclusively with the Pixel range, so they have gone back and they've updated the Pixel 2 upwards, so 3 and 4 are going to have it as well. They announced 3 very Google colours, which I think was clearly white, just black, and also orange.
Also orange.
Also orange.
Oh, God.
Yes, very Google, which I think in the actual press release we saw for the actual Stadia packaging, which also dropped, there was a lot of people to joke because there was actually an also orange Pixel in the shot.
Fantastic.
Everyone straight away got on the bandwagon, including myself, saying you must get that free with the package as well. If it's not in that little caveat, does not include the phone at the bottom, then I'm expecting it to show up on the 19th of November with my controller and
Chromecast filter.
Give me that. Hey, if there's a way to get more people in the door, throw an £800 phone in there, and I'm sold.
Do it.
Bargain of the century, but
worth £120, and he's an £800 phone as well.
You'd be invested, you'd use it. But in regards to the phone itself, they spent a lot of time focusing on the camera details. We don't want to get too bogged down into it. It's very much a top spec Android phone. Google Android based through and through. It's going to run Stadia, no doubt, probably better than any other phone. But just because of the internal specs, it's going to be able to run it smoother. But for me, got hands-on with it almost, I think, less than an hour after the actual event. Phone's amazing. The back feels nice and smooth. The camera, oddly enough, in previous Pixel ranges, they used to split the back panel into two-tone colour. Yeah. So you'd have the base would be kind of like a gloss colour, and then the top would be matte where the camera would sit. Totally got rid of that for this design. So the camera's now got this big square stick-out block, and it doesn't mesh very well with the back of the phone, in my opinion. It's it's slightly raised, so if you're putting your phone on a tabletop, you're going to get those scratches, so it's something everyone's cautious of. But yeah, the back feels like a nice ceramic glass, similar to the iPhone, nice and smooth. It's very much almost edge-to-edge display, not quite as much as the Samsung range, but it gets very, very close. It's very, very Google in the way it's designed, but the packaging's nice, clear white boxes with a simple logo on the front. There's not much to really go into. It feels good. Probably won't get it myself. But it was nice to get hands-on with something so close to Stadia so close to the announcement, and just to walk into essentially where I work, and it was like, oh, we've got the demo in.
Brilliant.
Got to play with it, got hands on with it, and so it's as close to Stadia as I'm going to get for the next few weeks, that's for sure. But nothing but praise for it. It looks nice. Hopefully people jump on it because you can play Stadia exclusively. This is clearly the market that they're aiming at. People who upgrade these yearly iterations of the phone. Why would you get a Samsung if you're invested in Stadia? How about treat yourself to a Pixel? And you can play Stadia as of now. I'd be interested to know how small that launch window is going to be, because at the end of the day, Android phones are a good 70% of the market in the world. If they limit it to Pixel, it's also limiting Stadia. So I hope they don't have their blinkers on with this and they just go global as soon as possible.
Yeah,
if it becomes a little bit greedy.
I don't want to see ourselves sat here in a year's time waiting for the Pixel 5 announcement and it's still only on Pixel
my
phones.
assumption that the reason it's only on Pixel phones is purely based on they have them, let's develop for this and then expand it out.
Yeah, it's to drive Pixel sales.
Drive Pixel sales, focus on getting it launched, and then we'll expand.
It will. It'll be something that you see it sometimes in the industry where the idea is when a new product comes out, you obviously want to try to boost the initial sales there. Yeah. Once that has happened, then obviously you will roll out and become part of a mass market.
Yeah.
So that's probably what they're going to do.
I'd imagine with the launch of Base, that's when we'll go. They get that 5-6 month exclusivity window of it's only available on Pixel. Come Base, it's free entry level. It's open on God knows how many platforms. Here we go. I think that's going to be the big kick, which you've alluded to quite a lot, Richie. The base launch is going to be the true launch, I think, of this, and that's when all these little questions we've had and all these little. It's strange that they're not doing this yet. I think come February, March, whenever it may be, that's when they're going to go all in and announce it to the world that it comes with all these amazing features that everyone's picked and digged away at for many, many months. That's when it's going to go.
Going back to the phones for a second, you can play Stadia on just a browser.
It's a Chrome browser.
Yeah. So could you do that on your phone? Do you think? Or do you think that would just be actually for some reason Google? Well, actually, I detect you using this on the phone that isn't a Pixel.
Well, they've played it through Chrome browsers initially, but I'd be interested to see when it goes mobile if it has to be opened up through the app potentially, because the mobile market's where you can drive people towards the app and it'll allow them to probably monitor their numbers a little bit better, make sure the security preferences are locked in as well if you have to log in through the app, because a Chrome browser is quite open source, as we've all probably experienced on our laptops in the past. So yes, in theory that's what they've said, it's through a Chrome browser, but I'd imagine on a mobile, your browser tab being open at the top of the screen is going to limit that screen space. Whereas if it is open through the app, it can go full screen. It's going to be much more manageable from that part. So
this is something to try out on the 19th.
I assume
once I get it, I'll get my phone out. I currently use a Sony phone, Android. I'll open the Chrome browser and see if I can play Stadia.
I mean, the Chrome browser is available on all
this is
all
what I'm thinking.
platforms.
So is it actually, are they locking it, or is it just the app is currently
I'd
only
imagine they'll
available?
lock it. That would be a really sad
it
irony
seems
if it's exclusive on
such
Pixel.
an obvious workaround.
It would be
That's why,
a terrible irony
question
that
it.
it's exclusive on Pixel, but if
So
you're smart
Google's
enough to
decided
open
to go,
Chrome.
Yeah, I do recall them saying something originally when we saw the original Connect or the GDC announcement, where they said that it would, or as news was trickling out, that it wouldn't be fully available until that February sort of window there. So maybe they're going to sort of ride out the storm to begin with and see how it goes over the holiday period. Then come February, we might see it then start to spread out once the standard editions are released and once people have access to your basic package for it.
When we look at the competition as well, they all function through an app. So PlayStation Now on your laptop runs through an app. If you're using Xbox or anything, it all boots up via an app. And even Nintendo's voice chat is done through an app on a phone. I know, I had to bring it up.
It's bad.
It's a way of regulating it, and it'll keep it sharp and simple. And again, it allows them to lock it in, so not everybody's jumping on via a Chrome browser. Because I can't imagine that's the way they want people to experience it, if we're honest. But again, it's one of them little tidbits that we know a little bit about. Hopefully, we'll see a bit more in a Connect before the 19th. I'm hanging my hat on that.
They need it.
There needs to be more game announcements.
Well, the one thing we didn't really talk about in relation to the release information from the video and from the how-to and from the Welcome to Stadia is, did we just get a Stadia ident, like a load up noise? Have we now got some sort of sound bite?
Yeah, I think we did. I think in that video that they dropped immediately after the Made by Google event, and it sounded like, it was very much like a crowd. Again, future Chris or Tom, whoever edits this video.
Psst. Hey, this is future Chris, adding in the audio as requested from past Chris. Cover your ears. Hopefully that wasn't too harsh on your ears. Back over to you, hungover Chris.
I'll add the sound effect. But if you're not sure, just search for that YouTube video, and it's right at the beginning and it's right at the end. It's a simple woman screaming Stadia, I think, and it has like little drum beat in the background and a crowd from a stadium. Presumably, that's how it's all going to tie in. It's definitely the Nintendo click and the PlayStation noise and the Xbox, that big loud boop noise that it makes. So yeah, and again, this is where they need to get that branding. They need to start showcasing to people what they're about. This is every time you hear that noise, it needs to be synonymous with Stadia.
Going back to the Switch, that is such a satisfying thing. Even when you put your Joy-Con, you're saying,
the click.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I got my Switchers.
And I think products, we can say this from like years and years of history of branding and so on, that these sorts of things stick with people.
Yeah.
So you get it right, you've got an identity for a product that really goes a long way, and then suddenly becomes very much defining for future, essentially.
Yeah, it really does. I've got a good example, actually. Seems though we're all in person in the room, and the microphone may pick it up, but if we're ever so quiet, and I'll move over here, if you listen to this bit.
And now we're getting a copyright strike.
There's your copyright strike. But when you're talking about idents, that Sega sound effect, if you heard it or not, it was very much the Sega Megadrive.
Who right now has a Sonic theme in the head?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Immediately.
It just pairs hand in hand, that noise, like immediately followed by the imagery as well.
Yeah, the blue sit, and that's 25, 30 years, it's as old as us, essentially. And that is, as far as idents go, that's it. So that, copyright strike right there.
Sega, please come back.
Hopefully the microphone didn't pick that up, but
we're not getting a copyright
strike. Dreamcast 2.
Sega.
Dreamcast 2. We spoke about it, I think, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So the other news that came out this week that has a lot of people speaking quite negatively, not so Stadia related. Negatively?
On the internet?
Really?
I never would have thought.
So, first reviews coming in for WWE 2K20. And this looks to be a little bit concerning.
Yeah, so
it's a PlayStation 2 game.
Yeah, I dropped this into the doc just because I saw an article about it, and 2K have a relationship with Stadia because we've got games that are dropping onto there. So the chances of this becoming part of their portfolio is very much a reality, most likely. Not announced at the moment because, as we know, we've not had any game announcements for a good while. It's got to be in the pipeline, but if anyone's into wrestling out there, any lapsed wrestling fans, WWE fans, anything like that, if you want a wrestling game for this year, go back into your catalogue, dig out your PlayStation 2 Smackdown versus Raw. Actually, you might have one in the room with us. Dig out your Smackdown versus Raw or whatever it used to be and put that in, because there it is, Smackdown versus Raw 2007, because the graphics will be the same.
It might
the cutscenes will be the same. If anything, the 2007 iteration will be a more complete game by the looks of it.
Well, it's the golden age of wrestling, really.
Not only that, but it'll take you back for that nostalgia hit. But the new, some of the snippets from the cutscenes, the frame rate, the overall design, the choppiness is horrendous.
I've literally got the box in my hand looking at the back, and I think the graphics on this might be better.
I really think they are.
Again,
we're not. I'm not joking here. If you look these games up, wow, Triple H is very sweaty. If you look these games up, typical WWE. So these ones. This one was made by THQ back in the day. Wow. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
The new one, it was the developer who made last year's. Was kicked out. So basically, the team that usually helps them out produce the games has took over full ownership. And clearly they weren't ready for it. It appears this year's game compared to last year's is somehow worse. Year on year, you've somehow made the character models worse. Some of them don't even look like their real-life counterparts. But it's been a long time since I picked up a wrestling game, so they might look like that in real life for all I know. But so just a heads up to those who are planning on getting on Stadia if it is announced, or playing on the traditional consoles. Save your money.
Tread carefully.
we're saying it's going to be a terrible game. It looks like it's a terrible game. We haven't played it.
No.
It could play very well for all we know.
I, hands down, without playing it, are going to tell you it's a terrible game.
You heard it here first,
Yeah.
folks.
Fair enough.
You heard it here first.
My review, 2 out of 10 without playing it.
Yeah.
And go and get Smackdown vs Raw 2007.
Just for the record, we are aware THQ Nordic exists.
They're not the same.
They're not. They're not. They're categorically not the same company.
Nope. No.
Just a throwback as well, this game comes with NetPlay.
Oh yeah. So there you go. Functionality there.
NetPlay.
That was game breaking. That was NetPlay. Takes me back to the days of like PS2 network connectivity through NetPlay and the GameCube as well with the modem adapter.
Yeah.
Wow.
Who's
We've
a
come a
little bit
long
more,
way, haven't we, really?
Yeah, we've come a very long way. I'm just looking at this box art again. You've got Dave Bautista on the back, picking Booker T up.
Yeah.
And obviously now he's Guardians of the Galaxy fame.
Yeah.
Undertaker retired. John Cena is now an actor, apparently.
Should we just get the port this to
Just port the 2007.
THQ Nordic? If you have the rights to Smackdown versus Raw 2007, just port it.
Well, if you look at the way that a lot of games are going, why don't you just rehash the entire WWE series? Because, we'd probably eat it up, wouldn't we, gents?
Yeah,
really?
sports games are so odd the way some are licensed, some aren't. The NBA games, what's this exclusive one Sony do every year? Is it MLB? It's exclusive.
Yeah, MLB the show.
Yeah, that's a sports game, but it's exclusively made to one platform, which is so weird. Whereas, the likes of FIFA and Madden and stuff just go all over the place. But so that's my take on it. Just keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah.
Don't buy it.
Doesn't.
And that brings us to the end of the news for this week. So gents, let's move on to our little question time, I think, this week. So now that we have a release date, let's talk usernames. Are you guys thinking what are you thinking? Are you going to go with what you've done before?
Slappywag 45.
I'm going to be Slappywag 46.
And Tom?
Because all of those iterations, I guess I've got to take 47.
I'm not going to fall into that caveat of telling people what name I'm going to give out. I don't know about you two, but just in case there is someone camping on that particular name right there.
Yes.
I'm lucky enough to have an oddly enough surname that it's very rare that someone will take it. I've been fortunate enough to get all the Twitter handles, emails, everything else that I've needed to in my lifetime. I always feel sorry for whichever child has grown up being called John Smith right now, because good luck getting an email that doesn't have 56 characters after it. But for my Stadia name, I'm kind of torn between, do I call it Sounds of Stadia?
Ooh.
Or do I just go with my own personal one?
Well, I guess at some point, once we know that the package is on the way, we're going to receive some sort of email from Google that allows us to actually create our accounts and take our usernames ahead of the release, essentially. Or
they said they're going to send an email at some point.
Well, but for me, is that going to be 3 weeks later?
Your email's in the post.
My email is...
Actually, this might be why they're talking about releasing it based on...
In waves.
Yeah. Because then, you send out the email, okay, first 100 get the day, get on this day, second 100 get this date, and so on. So those who invested earlier get a first pick, basically.
Yeah, because it's they do say you get to choose your Stadia name, but the reality is what if two people who are also founders go for the same name?
Yeah.
Like, who are John Smith out there?
I think that might be
Ends up being John Smith 1.
Again,
bad
if that is the reason they brought this up, bad messaging.
There must be a caveat in that small print that says names cannot be guaranteed.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the case. I'll probably stick with the usual username. Again, I'm going to keep that quiet for the time being, but it'll become very apparent in the near future.
It's Tom.
It's Tom.
Just Tom.
It's just at Tom.
Could you imagine, though, if there's probably going to be a caveat again to how many characters it needs to be or something, but imagine if we could literally just go in and go, Chris, Richie,
It's
Tom,
possible because it's
at
limited.
Stadia.
Someone's got to get it.
If you're the first people defining usernames for a system, then I can't see that.
I might do that. I might just try and get Richard.
That's a hell of a username to get, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm Richard. That's my username.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Well,
you could be the MySpace
at
Tom
Stadia.
of Stadia. Just Tom.
The Tom of Stadia.
Yeah,
wow. Yeah. That carries some weight behind it, I think.
And
it's got some internet history
The thing
right
is,
there.
all three of us have quite generic names as well.
Yeah,
so it could
we
be
do,
just
yeah.
Chris, Richard and Tom. They could be our usernames.
Wow. You've given me food for thought there, gents.
And we've also someone else about
As long as you put some thought into it, because I feel like a lot of people are going to miss this email, or it's going to drop into their spam folder, and many days detached from it being sent out, they're going to panic and go in and find it in their bin.
It's another thing for them on the Connect. Just go, okay, the emails are coming out on this day.
Yeah.
It's a simple thing that you can put in. I imagine everyone who's pre-ordered Founders Edition is sat there waiting to watch it connect.
Okay.
So just go, okay, the email's going to come out this day, be looking for it.
Well, soon enough, I'm sure once we actually get into it, when we've got our accounts created,
Yeah.
we will probably get to a point where we share them. We'll be doing some videos where we actually go through the process of playing things together as well, won't we, to show off the hardware. So stay tuned, guys. You will eventually find out what we're going to go with or what we ultimately get.
You might even find out what we look like.
Perhaps.
At
When we
some
start
point.
going live, not just a static image on YouTube, but...
I'm going to buy
who
a
knows?
mask.
So, now that the Made by Google event has dropped, and we've got the launch date, do we think this is it for Stadia news? Or, I mean, we're obviously all hopeful that we get more information, but is Google going to go dark now until release?
I really hope they don't.
I know.
I fear they will, but I really hope they don't. We need, as mentioned last week, that drop of new information, concrete details on certain things, and more games. We really need to get more games in this pipeline, and we need some... I was quite curious. I almost thought when they announced the 19th, I did a double check for Jedi Fallen Order, which we spoke about last week, because that comes out on the 15th of November.
Yes.
It would be a really close, nice tie-in to say this game, which is... The previews are currently dropping on the internet as of yesterday, and it's getting really good detailed previews that are saying it's a really good open world, it's got lots of side quests, got lots of collectibles... And I'm excited for it. I'm genuinely excited to enjoy a fast story-driven Star Wars game in a long, long time. That will be a huge get. Yes, it might be 2 days detached, but if it's coming out the weekend prior, everyone picks up Stadia, sorts out their usernames and such during that week, and goes into the first weekend of Stadia with a massive EA title like that, which all their friends will be playing on other consoles. That'd be huge. Will they do it? I can only hope so, but they need this. They said you need to get in that new conversation. Them adverts that are going to go all over the place for Fallen Order, all over TV, all over YouTube ads, need to have that little Stadia logo alongside PS4.
And again,
Xbox.
it's one of these things that we have been saying, whether it's online or offline, that my fingers are firmly crossed for this, because if what I'm reading is true about Fallen Order, it is going to be this almost sort of Dark Souls-esque, Assassin's Creed-esque style, Star Wars-themed story. And that is like literally ticking two of the biggest boxes for me. Like, I absolutely dig those titles. They are absolutely right up there at the top of my list of things that I enjoy. With my favourite franchise of all time, that is like how I'm incredibly excited for that. So, please Google.
Yeah, we
Help
need
me out.
something.
We do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So hopefully we will get something. Again, we wait with bated breath, but it's one of these things, again, that we are going to sit back and just wait these few weeks out. But hopefully next week we'll get to a point where we have more things to talk about. Now, as we are coming close to the 1 hour marker, let's talk about our games of shame, gents.
Games of shame.
Games of shame.
Games of shame.
We're going to pass this over to let's start, Richie. Your games of shame this week.
God.
So let's talk about first of all games of shame. What is games of shame? What is it?
I mean, the name pretty much gives it
Yeah,
away.
these are games that you feel like you should have played because of something that you think, you've been told this is a game you must play. You think you'd be very interested in, but just haven't
You
played
daren't
it.
tell anyone.
Or you
you've
haven't
never
played
it.
enough, or you haven't given it a fair try.
Yeah, it's like your guilty sort of
Yeah.
conscience is now eating inside because everyone's talking about, this game, it's amazing, it's incredible, like it's one of the best titles ever, but you've never touched it.
Yeah.
So why?
Smackdown versus Raw 2007.
2007.
Yeah, that's now on my list. I'll add it to the doc.
Such a good game. But yeah, it is what it is. It's one of them, your friends talk about it, and you just kind of nod along, go, yeah, I know all
I love
about
that part. I love that part of the game. It's the
oh,
best bit, isn't
Try
it?
and pick out that one detail you do know. Oh, remember when he did this?
Yeah.
And,
That you saw in the trailer from E3.
Exactly. I think that's the one thing Let's Plays have allowed me to do more recently. Watching some YouTube videos on people playing through games that I maybe don't have the time for.
Yeah.
I've been able to watch along and go, you know what, I feel like I've got a really good understanding of this game. Recently, I've been watching a playthrough of, I think it was Dark Souls 2, actually.
Okay.
Never played it before, but I have a good understanding of how that game pans out, how difficult it is, the process for playing it. And I feel like I could actually pick up and know what I'm doing, but I've never played it.
I haven't played 2, but I did play 1 and it wasn't for me.
I played 2 on a live stream a couple of years ago under a title I called Drunk Souls. And essentially the plot was every time I died in the game, depending on the situation of the death, whether it was from an enemy, I would drink a certain number of units. However...
Are you proposing we do Drunkstony for Stadia launch?
It could be possible. If I killed myself through an environmental death, so falling off a tower and dying, or falling off a cliff, that kind of thing, I sort of ruined myself by drinking a weird mixture of whiskey and vodka, which was...
I thought you were going to say you jump off the chair then.
Disgusting. Let's just say by the end of the night, it was planned to be a 24-hour live stream for to raise money for a charity. I got 32 deaths in, and I remember blacking out around about 2 o'clock in the morning. And the stream ended with just 3 hours of nothing.
Wow. So
you
you were the 33rd death.
I was the 33rd death. But the Dark Souls game, again, I would strongly recommend for anyone who is sadistic, quite
a bit of a masochist.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing it while drinking.
If you like suffering the pain and torture and the frustration of being repeatedly butchered in a video game, go for it. But on the flip side, it's extremely rewarding when you actually manage to make progress in it. So, yeah.
With Dark Souls, it's actually not on any... I don't think it's on any of our shame lists.
No.
My shame list is one of them. It could be incredibly extensive because there's so many games I should play that I just haven't. So I'm only going to mention a few of them.
Segment it out so we've got a few per week.
Yeah.
So people can slowly hit you.
So we'll do one. Should we just do one each this week?
We'll do one each. Let's go with that.
Okay. As someone who has played a lot of PC games prior to the PlayStation 4, Half-Life, the entire series, haven't touched it.
Wow. Okay.
That's a game. That's a game of shame.
For me, that is one of those ones that I would have to call it how have you not, as a PC gamer, because Half-Life is such a defining title, not just for PC gaming, but for Steam, which is the biggest PC platform.
This is why it's on there, and my reasons for it is it's one of them games I know it's such held in high regard, but it's now a bit old, so I'm scared that I won't enjoy it.
It's been free on and off several times for the past probably decade. Sorry, guys. That's just
enjoy that.
Yeah, a little bit of a soundbite for you there, just a reminder. So it's one of those games that has been released and has been in several sales. It's probably only about £2 now.
Maybe it's unlikely that I can't see it getting ported to Stadia.
No.
But maybe I'll look at doing a live stream or something. Where I'll play through them or
it is an
something
aged,
in the future.
Yeah, it is an aged game now, but it is.
That's my worry, that it's not going to hold up for me because I don't have that experience with it.
Well,
it'd be like for someone, say, take Ocarina of Time. I can jump back in that game and have a brilliant experience. But I imagine someone picking up now, it's old.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
That's Half-Life for me, and that's why I don't. I know I need to play it, but that's why it's on the list.
I think it can be forgiven.
Yeah,
because it is a dated title now, and sometimes these things do pass us by. But it is one of those older titles that is fundamentally a classic, especially for PC gaming. How about you, Chris?
In light of your forgiven Richie, I've also never played Half-Life.
Yeah, well.
Again, I was never
a PC gamer. You can get away with that.
I can forgive that for a reason there.
Yeah, my PC endeavours was very much limited to Roller Coaster Tycoon, Age of Empires, SimCity, like that. Those kind of very much RTS take control games. I never really went down that route of playing things like Half-Life and such. I never got down that carrot. I was always stuck to... At the time, I was probably off playing Simpsons Hit and Run or something on my PS2.
Once again, a classic.
Exactly, it was just down a different route. And again, there's so many games, you can't play them all. But yeah, Half-Life is one. But in terms of my list, in terms of console anyway, all of the Final Fantasy games. I've not ever touched one.
And that hurts me.
I know. It hurts a lot of
does.
people. I know revere them as their favourite games of all time.
I don't know. I do really like the Final Fantasy games, but a lot of people don't like that turn-based.
I think,
RPG
that's what put me off.
I really do. It's one of the things why, for me, Final Fantasy 15, I love that game, but it's not what I wanted from a Final Fantasy.
It's very. I think that JRPG thing just never did appeal to me. And I think at the time, I remember a lot of my friends playing it, and to me, it looked like it was that turn-based mechanic. Where in my mind, turn-based mechanics always reminded me of Pokemon, where you literally.
That's not a bad thing.
Oh no, completely. But when I wanted that JRPG-esque mechanic, I would just play Pokemon. It never really bothered me. Whereas if I wanted something on a console, I pictured that as a more open world.
It is fundamentally a feature of most Japanese games, isn't it, really? It's very much that. And I do appreciate living in the Western world that we don't always have like the taste to enjoy a JRPG. But however, the stories can be ridiculous. But they can be very detailed and very in-depth. And you obviously develop a bond with some of the characters. One of my first games I ever played that I purchased myself was Final Fantasy VI. Now, that was, it wasn't the original on the Super Nintendo. It was when they re-released the anthology for the PlayStation 1. So you had a few of the games come together when they were on disc form. I also bought Final Fantasy VII, and I've just been a serial Final Fantasy player since then.
Was 6 the one where it was 6 in Japan but 3 over here?
Yes. Yeah, so 6 was...
See, it's things like this why I think I've steered away. Now it's started to creep up into crazy Roman numerals, and they have different variations, and it's like Final Fantasy VII
it's clean from 7 on.
plus 2.5 DX whatever max version. And they keep doing re-releases.
Final Fantasy 10-2.
Yeah, 10-2.
Yeah, it's like Star Wars.
13-2. There's just
It's like Star Wars the way they count, and I'm confused by it.
It's actually the iterations of 10-2. It makes sense because each Final Fantasy is kind of set in its own isolated universe. So,
well, it doesn't make sense.
So there's 10. The Final Fantasy 10 universe, and 10-2 is basically a direct sequel in that universe. So it does make sense.
Oh well, if I
from an outside perspective, it's a mess.
Totally messed up.
Final Fantasy, again, one of those titles. Everybody knows what they are, but not everybody has played them. So.
Are you going to play 7 when it's launched?
Fair enough.
Again, I appreciate what they are. I've seen enough of them. I understand people love them, and I can totally get why I'm a big fan of Square Enix.
There is a movie made out of the game.
Yeah, and it's so crazy and out there, I think, because I've not been invested from day one. It's a bit like Kingdom Hearts, where it appeals to me so much, but there's a lot of conventions which put an outsider off jumping in, especially at this point.
As for myself, big titles, they've had a lot of critical acclaim and so on. But for me, it's BioShock. I've never even played it. I have a copy of BioShock 1, probably through a Steam sale or something like that, but I have never played it at all.
Was it a PlayStation Plus game, or had a discount or something?
At one point, I'm sure it has been.
I actually haven't played them through myself. I played about 5 hours of BioShock 1, and then for whatever reason, I just never got back into it. I think something else took over. I think either bought it or came through PlayStation Plus. Thought, that's a game I should play, and bought it.
Actually, Tom, would you kindly pass me the copy of BioShock over there?
Oh, God.
It's on the shelf there, but would you kindly pass me it, please?
That's why it's literally out of my sight.
It's right there, yeah. So again,
it's just I just have no vision for BioShock. I cannot see it.
Yeah.
So I bought this one when it was on offer for about £5. Okay. Played the opening scene, totally enamoured with it, the world of rapture that's in there, and then never touched it again. And again, very similar to you, I put it aside. Highly acclaimed Game of the Year, on the box, and put it aside. And then when the collection came out, which is all next-gen stuff. Yeah. Played through all 3 games back-to-back. They are phenomenal. Highly recommend them. But it's really weird that I think I actually bought BioShock 2 as well, knowing fine well I wanted to play it, and I just never got... It's one of them games that I've owned twice over now, and it took the collection for me to jump in and play them all, and highly recommended.
I think Infinite is one of those ones that has captured my attention, and the setting for it is really something that's really made me think of wanting to get into it. So if I get the opportunity, I'll try to delve into it. But once again, it's just finding the time to do it.
I think it's a bit of a mood game. You have to be in the right mood for that experience.
It's so good though as well.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, another 2K game as well.
Yeah.
It's very 2K centric this week. So they've got Borderlands is.
Borderlands is also, it's Gearbox, but it's
published by
yeah,
Wow,
2K.
they're having a very topsy-turvy week.
Yeah, they are.
So you've got your wrestling game is shit. You've got Borderlands.
Oh my God,
Chris 2019.
Which amongst all the controversies, Borderlands still topping all the charts. Fantastic. Bioshock. Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Go shout out to 2K Games.
Yeah. No, they are a good publisher. They've been around for a while and they've done well for us. Anyway, that brings us to the end of the show. We have made it 1 hour and 9 minutes at the moment.
That's the longest show yet.
It is. We've made it, gents. through thick and thin, through illness, through hangovers.
We can now die in peace.
We can.
I'm going out for drinks after this.
Why do you do this to yourself?
Get back on because you have to.
You have to. Anyway, thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in this week. Once again, I'd just like to thank you all for your time. And just direct you, if you want to support the show, you can check us out on patreon.com/Sounds of Stadia. Also, we will be putting up the podcast once again on YouTube. Just search for Sounds of Stadia. I think we're coming up quite high in those lists.
Yeah, people seem to like the YouTube video more than the audio podcast, which, to be fair, YouTube's much easier for us to publish on. So
we will try to include some of the links to the articles in the YouTube comments as well, just so you guys can check out the things we've discussed in the episode. And obviously keep commenting, keep letting us know where you're from, maybe even suggest a state for us for next week so Chris can tell us where in the world we're actually going, what state are you. And finally, if you do want to follow us and check out some of the latest news, anything that we talk about and discuss in the show, we can also speak to you about directly as well over social media. Just follow us on Twitter at Sounds of Stadia. So from myself, goodbye. From Chris and Richie. Gents, anything else to add?
To the pub.
Let's go. Round 2.
All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. We will see you this time next week. Goodbye.
Bye.